Have you ever started reading a book and by the time you realize it's not what you're into, it's already too late, you're in it too far to quit, so you just keep reading it till the bitter end, but then you're bitter? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today.
Hello again, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be talking about Thank You for Listening. I've never experienced a romance novel with a heroine who is missing an eye. Her reconciling of herself to the way she looks now is a really big part of this book. For a lot of women, I think that's going to resonate. Women that have even much more mild issues with their bodies are going to be able to identify with this. Or people that have had a traumatic accident, a traumatic injury, and you have a really distinctive before and after in your life. That's a theme in this book. Coming to grips with who you are now and loving yourself as you are now instead of living in the past or living with big regrets. I'm really happy that I read this in book form and didn't listen to the audiobook, because there's a huge section of this that is, it's like emails, and there's like a chunk of the book that's in email form, and I just couldn't imagine it being narrated. It seems like it would have really been clunky. I don't really feel like this is a romance. It's more like new adult. Even though it's set in the romance world, it kind of like in the same way that Lost City was, it's poking fun at romance in a way that doesn't feel good as someone who loves romance. More like a think piece about romance. At certain points, it almost felt like there had been things fed into an AI generator and it was spitting out plots, it was fed into GChat. Is it more interesting to have two people talk about only one night or have them actually do it? And in this case, they don't even do it because it's closed door, fade to black. Ooh, it's gonna get steamy, it's gonna get hot, and then it doesn't. And especially with a hero like this who is supposed to be sex on wheels, it's kind of a bummer. There were also so many subplots in this book. You have her bestie, her career, her landlord in his house, her dad subplot, her mom subplot, her grandma. I was like, stop this ride. I just want to get off and go to Romance Town. What are we doing here? Like, what are all of these other stories doing in this story? It really took away from the romance. And again, like I said, maybe this just wasn't an actual romance. Maybe it's just more like contemporary literature. So then there's the dangling carrot of the book, which is that they are going to do their duet together. The two narrators are going to be in the same room, and because it's a romance novel that they're reading, it's going to be really steamy. And when we get to that scene, it is not steamy.
This is where I really feel like the promise of the premise broke down and was lost.
She just kind of like starts taking him to task about his acting abilities, and I was like, what are you doing? What is going on? It was then, I think, that I realized that this book was not going to give me the happily ever after that I wanted, in the way that I wanted. Now listen, this book is smart, it's funny. There were some exchanges that brought tears to my eyes. They were so beautiful. There were moments of insight. As far as a book is concerned, it was beautifully executed, a beautifully crafted book. But it didn't take me to swoon town, and that's personally what I want in a book. So I was a little bit disappointed, but that's just me. It did seem to go by pretty fast, but that was mostly because I was reading it really hoping to get to the good stuff, which faded to black. I personally really loved all the insights into how they narrate books and how that actually comes about. I never really thought about it before, but the fact that this guy had like a little studio in his house where all these little sound booths were recording books was pretty cool, and I loved learning about that part of the world. It was interesting. It was kind of like listening to like an episode on NPR about something. So let me know in the comments below, do you prefer audiobooks or paper books? I personally love to have one of each going at all times so that I can always be reading a book. If I'm really crafty, I will be reading the audiobook and the paper book at the same time so I can just switch between. That's my favorite way to do it.